I think you're supposed to start.
Okay.
Now your face is all red.
I know. Welcome to Boys on Facebook. Um, I'm a little thrown off. Sorry, guys. Today we're going to be talking about coughs and colds and problem droppings explained. It comes from the two books that we have. They're very good books to have. They give a lot of information in them.
One of my go-to series.
So we'll be discussing those shortly.
May I ask something?
Sure.
Who are you?
Oh. My name's Gina, and this is Jerry
What's your last name?
Gagne.
Okay.
What's your last name?
Gagne.
Oh, okay.
All right, what a coincidence.
Imagine that. As you know, Veronica's behind the scenes. First, we want to talk about the change in the auction. As you know, we normally do the auction at the end of the show from 4 to 4:15 every day. Well, we changed that this time. So if you read the whole write-up about the auctions, you would know that. Otherwise, you wouldn't know if you just assumed it was the same. But now we post the birds on Monday or Tuesday the week of the show, and then the auction ends Friday before the show at 2 o'clock now. So there will be no showing of the birds live, just the pictures that are online. Anything else to add to
Part
that?
of the reason we did it was the 15 minutes after the show didn't lend itself to people sending in bids. We did get a few, but it really, the auction was pretty much finalized when we went on the air. We didn't get any more offers. So now it closes at 2 o'clock, and it is closed now. So if you wanted to bid, am I correct? It's too late?
Correct.
All right. And this is the way it'll be from now on.
Although there were no bids this time at all.
Yeah, this is the first time it's ever happened. Should we take bids through the show, or Veronica, can we do it? If you'll figure a way. Okay. So what we'll do, the show is going to last until 5 o'clock. If you
5 o'clock?
I'm sorry, 4 o'clock. 5 o'clock somewhere.
4 o'clock, 4-ish.
All right. So if you want to send in a bid, I'm really surprised. There's a pair, I'm looking at them right now. If you're a pigeon fancier who shows his birds, you would know the name John Hepner. John is a master breeder. Takes a lot of work. You got to win a lot of shows, have quality pigeons, and that's John Hepner. He's a master breeder in multiple breeds. It cost John, I'm trying to remember exactly, but close to $400, and we're going to talk about why, to ship the birds to Foley. So we've got these birds. These aren't your everyday birds. These are birds, except for the racing owners, that would do well in just about any showroom in the United States. And we have a pair of German beauty homers. If you go to the website, you'll see a picture of those German beauties. If you like that kind of bird, they're a gorgeous bird, nice tight feather, a big bird, bigger than a racing homer. But if you don't know much about them, but have some interest, you would never find this kind of bird in an average person's loft. John Hepner, one of the top breeders of German beauties in the world, offered me this pair. We got some comments. Veronica was telling me people seem to think our opening bids are high, but this pair of birds would sell for $500. And if you want to see them, go to our it's on a website, right? We're on Facebook also. I'm not sure.
Yes.
Okay. The other pair that I'm really surprised is a pair of Swifts. Now, people did call the store, and I made a mistake, and I called them Oriental Rollers, but they're Egyptian Swifts. A beautiful pair. Once again, John sent those. This is a mated pair. If you bought this pair, you'd probably have eggs and young ones within 2 weeks. And the German beauties are a mated pair. So remember, the money is for charity. and it's going to help this hobby in the future. So if you want to make a bid, the opening bids on those two pair of birds is $100 plus shipping. And
100?
I'm sorry,
125.
125.
Yeah.
Both of them, 125. You couldn't buy them for $500. So I urge you to give some thought to bidding. It's a pretty simple process. You do it on on Facebook. Enough about that. Okay. What are we going to talk about next?
The shipping. A lot of people were complaining about the shipping being so high, but as we said on the last show, the shipping for the post office just went up. But remember, within that shipping price, you're also paying for the shipping box. That goes in the cost. So you can go ahead more about the shipping.
Well, I think I mentioned this before. I went to the post office with 3 boxes of pigeons about 2 weeks ago. What would normally cost a 2-bird box with 2 or 3 birds in it, not counting the cost of the box, which is about $10. This was normally in the area of $30 to $35. That day, and still, because I went to the post office yesterday and I shipped birds Tuesday and Wednesday, $98. So it didn't go up a little. It skyrocketed, going from 39 to 98. And there's no other place you can ship pigeons in the United States. So John Hepner, as I said, to ship a 16-bird box, which is the biggest box we have, the post office wouldn't take it. They said it's too big. So I figured a way to make it a little bit smaller, and they took it. So here's something you may want to think about. And I'm going to be doing it to our other sizes first. This is your normal 2-bird box. There's a seam that goes all the way around here. What I did was I cut it down here with a box cutter. Okay, I cut it down here, and of course on the other side, the same thing. And I played with it a little bit. And when I did, I also had to cut right above the line here so that I could fold it over. So I cut here, folded it over. And this is what I ended up with. This is the same box as this, but you can see a little bit of difference in size. This box, when I took it to the post office on Wednesday, was $98 to ship it. I talked to the post office today, and I gave them these measurements, and I gave them the weight. I saved $46. So I went from 98 to 52. So keep this in mind. If you're going to ship pigeons, you can do this yourself. It's a pretty simple process. I did it in 5 minutes, and it was the first time I ever did it. So if you want to save money, see what's changed with the post office. And I don't think there's a darn thing that can be done except complain to everybody you complain to. But they, in the past, when I brought this box to the post office, they would weigh it and ship it. Now what they do is they weigh it and measure it. They measure across the front, here, and the height. And you can see how high it is. And there's no pigeons this high. I think it was made for pigeons and chickens. So by cutting it down, you're going to save yourself $40 or so. And it's a 2-bird box. No reason why you can't put 3 or 4 small bird rollers or things like that. So if you have questions, I'll be glad to try to answer them. And of course, we mentioned, and I see Mr. Simmons sent in a question. The whole idea of this show is feedback from you. So feedback means if you've got a question, send it to us via Facebook, and there's one up on the screen, and we're going to do our very best to answer questions. So we're going to be here for another 45 minutes or so. Yeah, just about. If you've got a question about anything to do with the hobby, give us a call. Should we take that question?
Are you done with that? That's not a complete question.
Okay, we have a question from Mr. Simmons, and it says, "Can you tell me why they're 3 and 1?" That's an incompleted sentence. We're not sure whether it's a mistake or on our end, right? What did I say?
Yes, you're right.
Okay. All right. So what we're going to do is talk about a couple of different books. One is called,
Oh,
I'm sorry?
hold on. We got something before that.
Okay, I'm sorry.
So,
All I
it's
do is sit
okay.
down and they tell me what to do.
We weren't together last show. I wasn't here, so you're not used to me.
And
You forgot
for the first time ever on air, I didn't wear my shirt.
last one.
I forgot it. You know, the
I
last
don't
show.
think that was the first time ever.
I don't think so.
I don't think. Might be though. Somebody, no, I didn't think so. Anyways, so breeding season is over, right? For
Yep.
most people. And there's some different things you should do now since breeding season is over.
Absolutely, and I'm doing it. This is for us pretty much middle of July. Now I've had my birds together since Thanksgiving weekend, so that's a long time. And we've talked about this before. Pigeons are stressed out during breeding season. They're laying the egg, the male driving them all over the place. So both the hen and the cock get stressed out. It's also very tough to lay eggs every cycle and raise those young. And while before the young are weaned, they're laying eggs again and they're feeding the young. So it's very, very stressful. And I really believe too many of us, not me, too many of you, breed your birds too long. It's time to separate them. Now, maybe you want to wait until the end of July, but I think across the country, if you've been breeding since spring, you should not go much past August, and I think August is too long. So what do? Well, I made up my mind. I'm going to stop breeding, and as I've shared with you before, I feed pigeon pellets now during breeding season. Well, as each section, and I have 13 sections of pigeons, as each section weans the last young bird. Weaning meaning there are no more young birds on the floor weaned. There are no more young birds in the nest. They are now laying eggs again after that round. So I go through and every egg that is laid, I throw away, and I put a wooden or two wooden eggs under that pair. That's going to slow them down because it takes me a while to do them all. So after I've thrown the eggs away, no more young in the nest. And what I do, and you may not be able to do it, close up your nest boxes or turn them around backwards. So now my next step, I switch to feed. In that every section, as it becomes empty of young, I start feeding them back to grains. Cold weather's coming. I know it doesn't seem like it, but they don't need the pellets, in my opinion. And there are people who feed pellets year round. I have to use them. I think they're a great aid and tool in breeding good, healthy young ones. So I'm switching to feed the grains. And as each section is on the grain, then I start either, in some cases, my nest boxes, I turn them around completely. So there's nothing there but a wall of the back of the nest boxes. If I have room, I do move some out. I just don't have enough room with 13 sections, and each one of them, let's say, have 8 or 10. I'm using over 100 nest boxes. Tough to find storage for them. So I'm turning them around, and that's my time to scrape them and clean them, flip them around, scrape them and clean them, and put them in storage where I do have storage. So it does two things. It gives the birds more room. Now, after all of my birds are switched to grain, they have wooden eggs, I'm ready to go to the next step. Now I'm going to start segregating. Throughout the year, every time I saw a cock or a hen, I would put a blue band on the cock and a pink band on the hen. As long as I've had pigeons, I still make mistakes. In fact, I paid for that a couple of weeks ago. I sent a guy a pair, turned out to be two cocks, so it happens. So now, with each section, the nest box, as I said, the nest boxes come out. It's time to clean the floor as best you can and put new floor covering down. As you know, I use pigeon floor covering, and I've separated my hens and cocks. I'm ready for next November. If you have a question about that, please give me a call.
So what kind of feed do you feed now?
Well, I'm using a mixed grain. Sometimes I use the European Supreme with corn. Sometimes I use the European Supreme with popcorn. Um, I don't have a preference one or the other. It really, when I come down to raid Foy's inventory, I go into the warehouse and see what we have the most of. Uh, and I use either with corn or without corn. I Even in hot weather, I do that, and there's a little bit of a change. Sometimes they don't want to eat the corn or peas. Like right now, I went into one of my lofts and the peas were still there. They didn't get fed again, so I'm going to cut back on their feed. If you have any questions about my whole program, I'd be glad to talk to you about it.
The you said you feed corn in the summer or popcorn.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people feed no corn in the summer, right?
Yes, they
no
do.
corn, no popcorn, and just in the winter.
Well, I found my own personal preference is that I feed with corn. I mean, with popcorn or with regular corn, they seem to do perfectly fine. So there's no reason for me to. And I understand. When you change feeds, it produces a little bit of stress. Mm-hmm. So by staying with corn in the summer, into the winter, into my breeding season, I'm not changing anything other than corn, and nutritionally, popcorn or American corn or yellow corn is basically the same. Well, thank you for asking me questions.
You're welcome. Also, we have a couple
Do you have
specialty
a brain
mixes. I did.
Oh, specialty mixes.
Specialty mixes.
Yeah.
Which would be the Dove mix.
Mm-hmm.
And that only comes in a 10-pound bag. It does not come in a 50-pound bag anymore.
And the Dove mix we make ourselves, don't we, or do we buy it?
We do.
We buy it.
We make ourselves.
And doves don't eat a lot more feed, but we can't buy it in a bag. We have to buy the ingredients. It's our own formula, and we make the feed for the doves. It's all very, very small grain. And the other one is?
The other one is short beak pigeon feed.
And once again, with short beak, if you breed short beaks, you know you have to be very careful with when we're talking about satin nets and those kind of things. And that feed is a small grain feed also.
And that does come in a 10-pound and a 50-pound.
Okay. Amazing how much feed we ship. You folks amaze me sometimes. People from California, from Texas, from Florida, they're ordering 50, 60, 50 pounds of feed, or they're buying 3 bags. Another thing, we've never really mentioned that. But if you want to get together with friends, you can order it by the pallet too. Mm-hmm. If you buy a pallet, it's generally 40 bags. We'll give you a bit of a break on the total cost. We ship it by truck, not by UPS.
Yeah. Also, you wanted to mention the Success Corn.
Mm-hmm.
It's an additive to the feed.
Right. A lot of people get confusion when we first started to when we first started to sell Success Corn. I thought it was a feed that you gave to the pigeons. It is not. It's a supplementation. And what you just wanted people to understand with the Success Corn, the Success Corn has ingredients, generally speaking, that you're not going to find in normal feed, but is a great part of a balanced diet for pigeons. So what you do, and I can't tell you the exact formula, but what you do is to your normal feed, when you're going to feed your birds, you can do it in the bag by mixing it into a bucket or something, or you're just adding a small amount of Success Corn to your regular pigeon mix, no matter what it is. And Gina is kind of looking up now what the directions are, but I wanted to make sure that people understood. It's a small bag. Do you happen to know how much does it weigh?
6.5 pounds.
6.5 pounds. So that's going to last you a long time because it is supplementation. But you want to give the birds the best you can possibly do when it comes to feed. That's nutrition. And Success Corn comes out of Germany, and it's made by the Versa-Lager company, probably one of the best known feed companies in the world.
And they will be our guest on our next show, Versa-Lager.
Quince is his name. Quinton?
Quentin.
Quentin is going
Yeah.
to join us. Quentin is from overseas, but he's been transferred by the company to the United States to start to promote more of the Versalaga company and its ingredients itself.
Okay, we're gonna take a couple questions. Luke said he needs Baytro. Do you guys got it? No, Luke.
No.
We
Um,
don't. Go ahead.
I want to say let's take it with a grain of salt. First of all, we used to sell Baytril. I've told the story many times. We were visited by the federal government. They sent 3 people here. One was a veterinarian for the federal government. 2 were inspectors. They drove from Washington, D.C. in their black SUVs and their badges and their dark suits. And believe it or not, they even had sunglasses on, the black ones, like they're protecting the president. And they walked into our store, and they were there to check our inventory. They understood we sold Baytril. They spent 2 days there. Now, what does it cost to drive all the way from D.C. to Pennsylvania? And they confiscated our Baytril. They took less than $300 worth of product, but they gave us a written warning. If we ever sell Baytril again, we could possibly be fined or worse. So we don't sell it. But what I wanted to tell you, I think it was a comment from a customer or a manufacturer, I'm not sure. He says, Jerry, I know, you don't even know that Tony's Treasure is actually Baytril tablets. I can't swear to it. I'm not going to spend money to have a chemical company, or lab check it all out. But Tony's Treasure tablets are one of the biggest selling tablets we have. And it's very, very effective, and it treats a lot of different things. So you may want to try Tony's Treasure, but we can't sell Baytril.
Other people do sell it,
Yep.
but
Yep.
we don't.
Yep, Siegel sells it, to the best of my knowledge. Jed's out in California sells it, to the best of my knowledge, without any issue at all. Even after we had our problems, we thought they would be going to the government would go to other places. They knew they were selling them, never bothered again. And we've never heard from the government again. We're supposed to be talking about coughs and colds and respiratory.
We'll get there.
Okay.
We'll get there.
Okay.
Okay, the next question. Okay, it's a long one, so
Okay.
listen.
Like I don't normally listen.
You don't. We have a hen that would lay eggs, set on them for about 10 days, then the hen will leave the eggs and not set on them. The cock bird will set, but the hen refuse. The eggs are fertile. She did that 2 times and we had to foster the eggs. Not sure why she's doing that.
Okay. And thank you very much for your bid on the Swifts. $125. So if somebody is interested in the Swift, you can offer a higher bid in increments of
$10.
Okay. I guess it's one of those things, and this kind of strengthens my opinion. It's very difficult to answer a written question. That's why I tell people to call me, because one question leads to another question. So you're going to have to respond. First question I would have is, are these 2018 birds? If they're 2018, they're considered very young breeders. And the breeders have to, a young breeder doesn't really know what to do yet. They're learning. And maybe the cock's older, and some, just like people, some mature quicker. But if they're 2018 birds, that's not unusual at all. Even though the birds are fertile, the bird doesn't know how long to sit on it. It's ingrained into them genetically, but younger birds give up quicker than a more mature breeding pair. So if you would, send the information to me as to how old the birds are, and then we'll go into it. Okay, so
Okay.
the name is Adra? No,
Yeah.
What's that mean?
His
Adra?
name,
Oh, okay.
I reckon.
All right. You give us send us another message, and we'll go into it a little bit more.
Okay, Richard asks, can I put wooden eggs in nest boxes instead of separating the birds?
Yes, you can. Some people do that, but what you're doing is just you're giving the birds a little bit of a health break because they will sit on those eggs up until maybe a day or two after when they would normally hatch. And then they're going to leave those eggs again and the process starts all over again. So you haven't stopped the mating system. They're still going to be under stress, but doing it without separating the birds is certainly better than not doing it. And I would also close up all the nest boxes. What's going to happen is when you close up your nest boxes, some of the birds are going to still lay on the net on the floor. It's going to happen. So the answer to the question is yes. Not as good as separating them, but I understand not everybody can do that. Are we a little bit warm?
A little bit.
Are you hot?
I am.
Stop bragging.
Stop what?
Bragging. Okay.
Okay, Ruben. Jerry, I've had a terrible breeding season this year. Is it me or have you heard a lot of others having this problem?
I have not heard of a lot of people having a problem. Um, if Ruben, I believe I've spoke to you before, and it is getting late into the breeding season. There's something wrong. Um, the only things that you can do would be to send a bird to us, or call me, Ruben, and I'll tell you where to send it. We'll send it to one of the local colleges who are experienced in pigeons, and they'll do a complete necropsy or autopsy, and they probably will find out what is wrong. Um, I normally would not recommend this. I do it occasionally, but if you don't want to do that, I'm assuming you've given them 3-in-1, which treats canker, coccidiosis, and worms as directed. I don't think that's the issue, but that's a start. And then what I would suggest you do, buy some amoxicillin powder. Put the birds on it, 2 teaspoons. It doesn't say it on the package. 2 teaspoons for 10 days. Then, after the 10 days, 7 days of 1 teaspoon per gallon. So that's 17 days. Amoxicillin is broad spectrum, but very effective and won't hurt your young ones. You can do it while you're breeding or while you have young. After the 17 days, put your birds on a good quality probiotic, a lot of good ones around, for at least 3 days. Wouldn't hurt to go 4 days. And then put them on probiotics every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. You can do it year round, or you can do it until you're out of it. And or if you would prefer, you might want to try Ultra Pro. Ultra Pro is an ultimate vitamin combined with a good probiotic, so you're doing both vitamin and probiotics. That's not going to cure them or solve the problem. It's going to help keep them healthy. But the 10 and 7 day, if there is some sort of a bacterial issue or some other illness, amoxicillin will treat a lot of them.
Okay.
Okay. I'm on
I
my.
like it.
This is great to me. I hope we don't get to our topic because the questions are questions that other people have. And by you asking the questions, we're helping other people too. So keep sending those questions in.
Okay, next question. Hi, Keith. As the weather gets hotter, you may notice more bugs in your feed mixes. What can we do to prevent this or treat the feed to save it?
I don't have that issue. And it's hot as blue blazes here. Now, you might be in Texas where it's 100 and 110. I don't know. And I don't know whether it's pellets or grains. But you should not have that problem. Um, here's an idea. We sell the pet strips. They're little yellow pet strips. You've seen them. And you can buy them from us. You can buy them in other places. They're about that long. Where you put your feed, put it in a feed barrel, whether it's plastic or metal, and put your feed in there with a cover. Drill a small hole in the cover, and run a string down that little hole above the feed, and the the stuff that's in the pest strips will kill any bugs in that closed environment of a feed barrel. So try that. I think that'll eliminate your problem because, as I say, I talk to people from all over the country, from California to Texas to Florida, all these hot areas, and they don't have an issue. So it's it's an issue with you in, I would think, in the way you store your feed. Try those pest strips, not the whole one. Maybe cut 4 of them out of one pest strip and drill a little hole through it, tie it so it's above the feed, and I think the issue will be taken care of. Usually the bugs that you're seeing are moths, a family of moths, um, and unless it's old feed or bad feed, you should not have that issue.
And we have been out of the pest strips, but they were shipped either yesterday or today, so we will have them next week.
Yeah, we've been out of them
for a while. Yeah. Mr. Simmons, what do you mainly look for in your pigeon feed? I'm a newbie and there's so much to choose from.
It changes as the seasons change, but if you want to stay with the same feed all the time, I would suggest something like European Supreme with corn, with popcorn, or with regular corn. If you don't know what to do, choose one of the ones with corn. Stay with it year round. And if you're a newbie, I've preached this so many times, you have to learn how much your birds are going to eat. So you feed the birds. If you go out an hour or two later and there's still feed in the feeder, take that feed out. Don't throw it away. Take the feed out, and tomorrow give it right back to them and make them eat it all. Now, the first time you fed them too much, so keep cutting back your feed so that within an hour or so you're going to learn they're going to eat it all. That's what I do. Now that changes just a little bit during breeding season because you've got to keep in mind that the time you feed is important. Your hen lays on the eggs from about 5 o'clock in the evening till the next day between 10 and 11, depending on the pair. So 5 to 10 the hen. So when she comes off that right around 10 o'clock in the morning, she has to have feed in front of her. And then around 5 o'clock, or then around 10 o'clock, the cockbird is there until later in the day. He needs feed. So if you feed in the morning and the feed's all gone within an hour or so, when you go back in the evening, don't give them a lot, but those cockbirds coming off need feed too. So it's something you've got to learn. Now, I'll tell you another thing. When breeding your pigeons, when that hen comes off the eggs, you're going to have a foul, stinky, big glob of poop. And because the hen stays on the eggs over half a day, and she doesn't go to the bathroom. And when she comes off, whoop! Yeah, it sticks. Okay, I'm having fun.
Anything but.
Anything but?
Yeah.
But?
Don't forget your anything but questions. You can.
Oh yeah, we have fun with this. We've been doing this well over a year now. And a lot of people want to ask questions about us, me, Jerry, Gina, or even we'll give you our opinions on Kim and Gina, Kim and Sherry.
Or the Stinky Ravens.
Yeah. So if you've got any kind of a question about us, with a few exceptions, and be nice, because most of the questions were about Gina, and no, she's not married if you're asking. Thinking about it? No, not yet.
Next.
Well, she has a whole.
Anyways.
Oh, okay. All right. I've got a question. Anything about pigeons, and you want to ask a personal question, we'll do our very best to answer it. Okay.
Okay, I have another question for you.
Okay.
Okay. I have a flock of 35. Last month, 6 came down with wet, coughing, and listlessness. I treated with Tylenol injection for 5 days. They all bounced back. Today I noticed 2 different birds with the same symptoms. Just a wet, congested cough. Occasional head shaking. Doesn't seem upper respiratory, seems lower. I would like to treat the whole flock as it seems to be lingering. Which antibiotic would you suggest to cover a broad spectrum? I don't have an avian vet near me. They are all eating and drinking well.
Did she say they were laying, or you say they were laying near the end there?
No.
Okay. I didn't know whether he was still breeding them or not. I did a lot of research on this. It was an interesting, compounded question, not just one area of problems, but just a whole bunch of little issues. So I did some research. When I say research, I go to my books. And also, I went to a book by Dr. Bosa, who's a South African pigeon veterinarian and very famous around the world. And I wrote it, and I'm going to read it because if you have paper and pencil, and you have a situation where you're pretty sure it's respiratory, it just won't go away. Because injecting with Tylenol, it goes away, but it comes right back again. Here's what I came up with, and if you're interested in this, and you can't write it down right now, you're whatever, you can call. I'm going to leave this with Gina, and she will have it. It's not an inexpensive process, and it's not a short process. It isn't 3 days, or 6 days, or 7 days. You're really going to have to get into this. And what's that saying? Oh, I'm sorry. We've got a jokester up there that you know, huh? All right. Here's what I suggested to this gentleman, and trying to read. Okay, I was going to give you his name, but I'm not sure what it is. All right. And these are products that are available from Foy's. I don't have all the numbers here in the explanation, but if you go to the index or go online, you'll find the product itself. You're going to start with a product called Mycoban, Mycoban. And you're going to use that for the first 4 days. You're going to combine the Mycoban with bromhexine. Now, Mycoban's an antibiotic. Bromhexine is not. But studies have shown that if you medicate for the first 4 days with a combination of these two, and bromhexine can be mixed with any antibiotic, what bromhexine does is it makes the antibiotic more effective. So for the first 4 days of treatment, and please, if you decide to do this, don't call me and say it didn't work, and then I ask you what you did and you skipped, or you thought this might be a little bit better. Do it exactly this way. I'm not that way very often. Demanding. Do it this way. All right. Then you're going to do that for 4 days, and then you're going to do it for 3 more days without bromhexine. So 4 days combined, 3 days with just the Mycoban. And you're going to do this every week for 8 weeks. Now that sounds like a long, long time. And you're going to use that bromhexine just like I told you. In prepping for this show, both Gina and I were reading these 2 books, Coughs and Colds and Problem Droppings. And one of the points the veterinarians made was most of the pigeon fanciers don't treat long enough. Now, you would think it would be the other way around. They treat for 3 or 5 days, and the birds look fine, and they stop. Follow the directions, and you're much better off to go 1 day past, 2 days past, than to stop because the birds look like they're healthy. Boom, it's going to come right back on you. So follow the directions, and in this, now, I didn't say to increase the medication. And there are cases where I do tell you this, but in this particular case, I'm not telling you to increase the amount of medication. I'm saying don't be afraid to go 10 days if it says 7. A little bit longer is a little bit better, and follow with probiotics. So once again, if you are interested in that particular treatment for a very, very difficult respiratory system, I'm looking over that German beauty pair of birds that are offering in the auction. If you decide to want to send in a bid, but they're in the process. They're a mated pair. There's no doubt about that. Okay.
And we'll announce 5 minutes before we're gonna end the auction. Probably about 5 minutes, 10 minutes before, but we'll announce about 5 minutes before it's gonna end.
Now,
Wait,
read
what's
Keith
your name?
Wilkinson Sr.'s email.
Well, as you all know, I'm a Steelers fan, and some of them Baltimore Ravens fans are always giving us hell.
Yeah, and what's amazing about that is we almost beat the socks off them every time we play. Well, occasionally they get lucky, but he wants to.
Occasionally.
He says you're probably going to eventually marry a Ravens fan.
A Ravens player.
A Ravens player. Well,
I'll take that.
oh yeah,
It's
depend.
all right.
Yeah.
I'll still be a Steeler fan, though. Okay, so we have some things to talk about that our original show is about.
And of course, as we mentioned earlier, we're going to be
You got the
using
books up
some
there.
of the books. One is called Coughs and Colds,
She got it up on
Croaks
the
and
screen.
Canker, and the other one is Problem Droppings Explained. And if you notice coughs and colds, respiratory problems in pigeons explained for $16 each is a good investment. Written by a very, very knowledgeable veterinarian on pigeons. So, you want to start it out?
No, I do want to say something first. We get calls every day on health questions, and we pretty much ask a lot of the same questions. If you've been watching us for a while, you know we ask, have you looked in the mouth? What do the droppings look like? Are they eating or drinking more or less? A lot of people don't have a clue what's going on. They just know something's wrong. You really need to pay attention to your pigeons. If they're sick, maybe separate them so you can see what their actual droppings look like compared to all the rest of your birds. It's really important to help us to help you. If they're lime green, if they're dark green, if they're watery, slimy, brown, black, if they have blood in them, like there's all kind of different things that may point to something, so we can help you with that.
Great point, because if you're going to call Foy's or you're going to call me, be prepared as much as you can. And in many instances, it happened again today. I asked the questions that you asked. He didn't know. So I said, here, let's do this. I'm going to be here for the next 10 or 15 minutes. Go out to the loft. Give me as much information as you can. So what I'm asking, what Gina's mentioning, is be prepared when you call us. Give us the more information you give us, the more likely we're going to be able to help you.
Right. So always pay attention to your birds. You can't just go and feed them and, not pay attention to them. You got to feel them, touch them, look at them, and really talk to them, really know them like they're your kids, right?
Yeah. That's such a great point, Gina. A lot of people, they love their birds, but you got to spend time with them if at all possible. And people are amazed. I can walk into any one of my lofts, or I can walk into your loft, and I can spend 5 minutes in there, and I'll point out the birds to you that aren't feeling well. It's just so, but it's experience, and it's spending time with your pigeons. Do your very best to spend as much time, and they're like characters. They all have different personalities. When one's ruffled up, you'll know real quick. And handle them as best you can. And I know I'm going on a tirade, but you started it, and I think it's a great thing to say. You've got to handle your birds. You'll know in handling them if they're going light. If you don't, when a bird dies, you'll pick it up and you'll say, "Oh my God, it's feather, light as a feather, and it's all skinny, and their breastbone is sticking out." You should have known that. You should handle your birds, and it'll make them tamer. And in handling them, every time you do, you look at their vent to see if there's green poop there. You open their beak and look down their mouth to see if there's anything going on there. You feel them if they're too skinny. And I spread the wings. If the bugs are there this time of the year, you get a lot of feather lice. You can't see feather lice until in wind you pick up your bird and look.
Yep. One other thing I wanted to mention is that a lot of people call and say, what's your best medicine? What's the best medicine for this? We don't recommend a best. We have popular products. One person might prefer one thing over another. It's a personal preference. Just like as if I take Tylenol, aspirin, ibuprofen, it's a personal preference. The same with our medicine. So we're not going to tell you what the best. We may say, well, these products are popular. This is what it looks like people are buying right now at the moment. Right now, there's a lot of respiratory problems going on. Tylenol is flying off the shelves. We have a lot of products for respiratory, but for whatever reason, everybody's buying Tylenol.
And if you're buying Tylenol, buy bromhexine. First 4 days. Any antibiotic, buy bromhexine. It's stronger for those first 4 days. It'll give them a shot, and then you go back to your regular Tylenol. What a good point you're making, young lady.
Thank
You are experienced, aren't you?
I listen.
Yes, you do. You learn.
But, if you think about it, a lot of the problems that the pigeons have are like what we have.
Mm-hmm.
If we have respiratory, we may have phlegm, we may have a cough, we may have watery eyes. Same as the pigeons, right? So,
get to know your birds, I guess is basically what we're saying. And respiratory, a lot of people call and think, well, I've got a respiratory problem. Respiratory isn't a problem.
right.
It's a whole family of issues. There isn't one drug that takes care of all respiratories. It depends on which one. And the more information you give us, another area that you're going to see issues real quick with respiratory is look at their eye. Is it watery? Is it caked? Is it shutting? So a lot of things you can learn, but you've got to do your part too. Spend some time with the birds.
Another question, then I'll let you go. Yeah. What's a good vitamin to give to birds?
Well, I can only tell you there's no good, better, best.
Right.
Matter of preference. The largest selling vitamin in the United States is a product that is a Foy's exclusive. It's called Pigeon Builder. It's a great vitamin. It was actually formulated by a pharmacist, a former owner of our business, Claire Hetland. We go through literally, it's hard to imagine, we go through a ton of that a year. A lot of medicine. But if you want to know what I use now, and I've switched to this, not this year, last year, something called Ultra Pro. I'm a strong believer in vitamins, and vitamin in Ultra Pro is our ultra vitamin. I'm a strong believer in probiotics, so we have good probiotics. There are other good probiotics that we have. But what I do is using Ultra Pro, I'm doing the right thing in that they're getting vitamins and they're getting probiotics at the same time. I don't have to use two different products. I use one, Ultra Pro.
5 more minutes until the auction ends. We have a bid on the Swifts, so if you want to place a bid on the Swifts, the German Beauties, or the Homers, then you need to do it now.
Okay. On the Homers, those are Trentons, and somebody wanted a pedigree. I just don't offer pedigrees. But I know Bill the breeder, and I've bred from these birds, and I've raised some gorgeous. I've raised yellow, and I've raised red from these this breeding pair of Trenton racing homers. So if you're interested, I think the minimum on them is 100.
125.
125. I think you'll be very, very pleased. Now, the next thing, Gina, is, I want you to read this because you're a better reader. Page 46.
Okay.
And what this is, it's a case history of, and it relates to respiratory by this veterinarian. It's a case history. And you'll be surprised at the end as to what the diagnosis finally ending up to be.
Okay, a fancier presented 3 stock pigeons that were newly paired up, suddenly and severely ill. He only did recent changes and is locked with some new straw. So their temperature was 110 plus, severe difficulty breathing.
May I mention this is from England, So it's not 110 degrees.
Oh,
They
Celsius.
use Celsius.
Okay. Respiratory cells in the throat sample, no reactive cells or tricho, some vomiting, beans present in the crop of one, skin and muscles blue color. You want me to go on?
Yep.
Okay. He injected transfusion liquids, antibiotics, steroids, and vitamins. He put a heater in the loft to recheck them in 12 hours. All 3 were dead, plus 2 others. He retained 2 for post-mortem, for bacteriology, and he repeated the treatment to relook at them in 8 hours, by which time 1 more had died and 2 birds from an adjacent section were ill. Okay, the results of the post-mortem: severe lung congestion and pneumonia, possible fungal elements in tissues. So 5 dead overnight, 2 shortly after. Then further post-mortem showed fungal growth visible by this time. Antifungal treatment started. By the evening of the 13th, 18 of 27 birds were dead, with another 6 the next day. The remaining birds plus the neighboring section received a 10-day course of antifungal drugs and survived.
This is the part. Listen to this. You'd never think of it.
The episode followed 2 days after the fancier cut the strings off a bale of straw inside the loft. During subsequent examination of a sample of the straw, Sandra, my wife, and a researcher was able to see a variety of fungal growths. An approach to an outside lab met with 4-figure quote for analysis.
That's it. And the last line, an independent company wanted over $1,000 to look into it, and these people found it. The problem was moldy straw. And they thought it was respiratory. Well, moldy straw created the pneumonia, but pneumonia wasn't the problem, and killing, I think, 20 out of 27 or something like that. No, 24 out of 27.
18 to 27, then another 6. Yeah.
24. So 24 out of 27 birds died, and it was all because of a bad bale of straw. So watch your straw. Be attentive to it. Look for mold or miscolored straw, which would be a little bit on the green side. Or if you're really concerned, don't use straw at all. There are other things that can be done. I don't like hay, and I don't, straw. I've used straw, never had an issue with it. I don't use it on the floor. I use floor covering. I wish we had time to talk more about floor covering, but we'll talk about it again. So, in talking about, did I lose your attention?
No.
Okay. Panting. Let's talk a little bit about that. I've got 2 or 3 more minutes. A lot of people call me and they talk about the birds panting. Panting meaning they're breathing with their mouth open. Couple of things that cause that. One, and the bird could be perfectly healthy, it's fat. It's just like a fat person running down, trying to run a block. They're going to be panting. They're going to be breathing heavy. So if you've got fat pigeons, you once again go back and pick them up. You'll know if they're fat, but it seems to you they're so fat they're really healthy. Fat is not good in pigeons, just like it's not good in people. So obviously, also a hen that is overweight and going to lay eggs, it puts more pressure on it. The first one, the fat's not respiratory. Fat hen laying eggs, that's not respiratory. It's panting. Of course, very hot weather, it's panting. And those are not respiratory. Another thing, and then we're pretty much going to close out. Sometimes you'll see, I wanted to mention this, it's not a whooping sound, it's a shrill coughing sound. Trying to do it once, I can't do it again. That's what you're going to hear. Open that bird's mouth. Sometimes there's right across its windpipe is an obstruction. Most of the time it's going to be a small feather, and the bird is trying to cough it out. That's not respiratory. Occasionally, and I should say occasionally, not uncommonly, you'll also have cases where there's a tumor. You look down their throat. We go back, handle your pigeons, check them all out. So with a tumor, that's not unusual. The birds will be panting. So if you've got heavy birds and they're flying, they're going to pant. Hot weather's going to pant. So don't assume because the bird's breathing hard that you've got a respiratory issue. Okay.
Adra, you won the bid for the Swifts. You can call us within the next 15 minutes. Ask for Gina, and I'll take your payment, and then Jerry will ship them next Tuesday if the weather's not too hot. So give us a call about 4:15.
Use your credit card, right?
Yeah, you can pay with the credit card. If anybody needs a catalog, call us. I was going to give your number out. 724-843-6889. If you have any health questions, give us a call. You can talk to anybody that answers. Pretty much everybody, we all know a lot. If we're unsure, we'll give you his number.
And we don't have a new catalog yet. We're working on that. Gina and I spent a few hours the other day. We're going to be spending more time together. You may not be aware, but it sure does take a year to create a brand new catalog. Vicki was mentioning to me at home last night, it's amazing how many new customers we're getting asking for catalogs. We thank you for that. We'd like to think part of it is this show. But certainly with the thousands and thousands of people watching, they're not all customers and they're requesting new catalogs. So we thank you for that. The show season, we're not locked into a 4 o'clock. No. The show season is coming up. Our first show is in September at Fremont. And then we go to the Grand National, and that's coming up. That's in October. And the birds that we don't sell at auction, I will be taking to the show, not Fremont, but the bigger shows, and offering them. And we get some pretty amazing prices because at the shows, it's kind of hands-on. You can pick them up and feel them and look at them, ask questions. In a lot of cases, the breeder of the person who donated those birds for pigeon charities is in the audience, and if you want to talk to him, so it's like a silent auction. We'll be doing that. And the other thing we mentioned, we'll mention it more and more, when we go to these shows, if you're interested in heavy products that are very expensive to ship, all you do is call the store, give them your credit card information, tell them what you want, and when you get to the show, no matter what it is, how big your order is, it'll be there with your name, and all you have to say, hey, my name's Jerry Byington. Hi, Jerry. And Jerry, I have an order here. Jerry will go over there and pick up your order, give it to you. Done.
And whether it's heavy or big bulky items that are expensive to ship, it's always nice to get those taken to the show.
Especially those the shipping 8-bird units and things like that, the 8-pair units.
Yes, if you want the 8 compartment or the 2-bird breeding unit, that's the time to get it.
If you go in our catalog, we have those metal 4-level units where you can make 8-pair or breed 8-pair from, and we also have the same company make one that's 2 sections, hangs on the wall. We're down to 4 of them.
5 sets of the 8 compartment.
5 sets of the 8 compartment, 4 levels, 2 each. So you've always been interested. It's not too early. You call and order one. We'll bring it to you for the show, and you pay no shipping. The average shipping on that is in excess of $100, isn't it?
Oh, a couple hundred.
Couple of hundred because it's so big and bulky. So if you're interested in any of those things, and we've only got 5 of those left, you may want to call now or call earlier, and we'll put it aside for you. By show season, most likely we'll be sold out anyway.
Yeah, and the other 8 compartments will be back in stock before show season, so we'll have those. Few questions. Oh, Jerry said he made his first trip to the store yesterday. Thank you, Jerry.
Well, sorry I missed you.
Yeah. Something else I wanted to mention. We had a customer in today from Pennsylvania, somewhere
Tom?
around here. Tom.
Okay, he's
Where's
from,
he from?
Pittsburgh
Near
area.
Pittsburgh. And I was talking to him about the new catalog, and he said, maybe I should advertise in your catalog for selling his birds. And I said, sure. I said, we send out over 10,000 catalogs. So if you'd like to advertise, contact Veronica, and she'll give you the rates. And if you want to sell birds, or whether it's your club or something else.
You know, we have clubs advertise in it, individuals selling birds advertise in it,
Yep.
and a lot of companies advertise in it. So once again, you're just full of good ideas. If you were interested in advertising in our catalog, Veronica will talk to you. If Veronica can't answer the question, then she'll ask Gina. If Gina can't answer the question, she'll ask Sherry. And if Sherry can't answer the question, she'll probably go and ask
Kim.
Kim, you know. And then if Kim can't answer it, then she'll probably what's my granddaughter's name?
Ashley.
Ashley will try, but if she can't, then they call me. I'm the
Not
last
really
resort.
like that.
Not really. Okay. Let's see what Scott has to say.
Scott, I'm getting ready to take my young birds out for their first drop. I noticed a ranging and gone for a couple of hours. How many miles do you suggest taking them out for their first drop?
100 feet, 200 feet. I'm not being funny. You've got to learn, they've got to learn first what that training basket is all about. So what I do is I put them in a training basket and put them in within sight of the loft itself. And I drop the door down. I might leave them there half an hour. They got to get used to it. And then I drop the door down. They go up. They fly around like they normally would now. And then they go back. You might want to do that 2 or 3 times so they've got an idea of what happens when that door goes down. And then I'm going to take them maybe 200 or 300 yards. I'm fortunate in that I have a hill across the street from my loft. Take them top of the hill. And then after that, I might go a mile. And I go from a mile to 5 miles to 10 miles to 20 miles, 25 miles, something in that area. I jump them out pretty darn quick. So that's what I would suggest to do. Train them to the basket. Once they understand what that basket is all about, then you're going to start training and get them out there 5, 10, 25 miles, not a problem. From 25 miles, if you want to train them further, I jump them all the way out to 50. Now, I try to go to each release site more than once. And how many times you do it is up to you.
Keith, can I put a Ravens advertisement in your catalog?
Yeah.
You can.
Yeah, as long as there's something along the lines, Keith, that I'm so embarrassed. I'm a Ravens fan, and it's a sickness. I don't know what to do about it. Would you have any suggestions? And, maybe other people will be able to help you through this sickness
Right.
that you have.
That was a good one.
Okay. I think we're done.
Okay. So next show, Friday, July 26th, we will have a guest that will be one of the Versalaga reps, Quentin. He'll be talking about some of their product line.
The accessory line, right? Not just necessarily the feed, but a lot of the different products.
Right. That's what I said. But yeah.
I thought you said that.
Yeah. That's
Questions? We've got the answers. If we don't have the answers, we'll find the answers.
Hold on. Ravens, it's a bird. Of course it is.
It's a bird. It's a plane. It's the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think the Ravens are for the birds. Your turn, Keith. We can blast him right off the air, can't we?
Yep.
Well, I think we've had a good show. Questions are done coming in. I think we did well. I'm especially proud of you. I can just see you growing into this pigeon hobby. Not into this, in knowing pigeons. The next step is to get your own little pigeon coop.
I can't.
Oh.
They make me sick.
Oh, that's right. You have allergies.
Yeah. So.
Hi, Sherry.
Until next time, if you would like us to show you anything on the show, if you want us to talk about anything, give me a call. Let me know. We'll be more than happy to talk about, show you whatever you guys want to see.
Thanks for watching.